Has arrived, and what a week this is. Everyone loves Thanksgiving week because it is a couple of days off, and it's also great football, and we have plenty of that this weekend. And let's get right to it as we begin the last week of the regular season.
This one simply says, Texas is terrible. Low-hanging fruit or truth?
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I mean, dumpster fire is used too often. I don't think it is a dumpster fire. I just think it's sad that Texas is still Texas, which is not impressive.
Can we just say they're backwards?
I think it's better for Tennessee, rather than to have, a couple of those top 25 victories, to beat all the teams in the SEC East that you're trying to pass to at least, get yourself into the top tier.
That's why I asked you, have you been to a doctor? Because I think you really need to go see a doctor other than your wife.
The most important thing, I've had the support of my bosses here at ESPN, and that's all that matters to me.
You have an unranked opponent who scores on you on 8 consecutive possessions.
No. I wouldn't let Oklahoma within 100 miles of the college football playoff this year.
Everyone's worried about LSU, to be honest. And it is actually interesting that the focus just goes completely past Georgia Tech, not just because it's a rivalry game, not just because it's on the road, but because with Georgia's offensive troubles, if Georgia doesn't fix those offensive troubles, the game could be close for a while.
There's no excuse for Bama's schedule. They could be in a better situation if they were a better team. But I just don't see Bama being in the number 4 spot tonight. I think, or tomorrow night, I think the polls stay the same.
And this, you're not going to believe, Todd Grantham. That guy should have been a head coach a long time ago.
I think even with Mac, Bama is better than Georgia.
And, man, I'm just tired of the Big 12 not getting any respect, man.
Well, I'm a big LSU fan, and that's part of it, Paul.
Well, it's been a great year then.
Yes, sir.
All of you, be careful out there. Brandon is up next in New Orleans. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, Paul. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your staff.
Appreciate it.
I have more of a statement than a question, and you can comment. I just want our LSU nation and the voices, including Ryan Clark and Marcus Bears, who I watch pretty much every day, to just don't be in such a frantic that we move down to number 2, because I want us to take care of Texas A&M first, and then Georgia in the Georgia Dome, and then once we get to the CFP, we take care of business there, and then we will know, the last team standing will know who is the number 1 team in the country.
That makes sense, Brandon. You think we can figure that one out?
I hope so.
Well, I will make sure the right people heard your phone call. Thank you very, very much. Rick is in Ohio. Hello, Rick. Nice of you to call.
Hey, Paul. First of all, I wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. As a Buckeye fan and being a Big Ten supporter, I've got to tell you, I really enjoy listening to your show in the afternoon. So
thank you.
I have a hypothetical for you at this point because I was talking to your screener, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on how the Heisman's shaping up. It looks like Burrows, barring any setbacks, is going to run away with this. But if Chase Young would not have had that 2-game suspension, do you feel that his play on the field is similar to what Woodson did in '97 and possibly would have made it a closer race for the Heisman?
Rick, great question. I was on Get Up this morning with Greenberg and Desmond Howard, and I gave my Heisman selections. I had Burrow, Chase Young, and Justin Fields, and Desmond Howard just went ballistic saying, how can you put Chase Young in there because of the suspensions? Suspensions don't bother me at all, and I'll answer your other part of the question in a minute. To me, the NCAA ruling him ineligible was a crock, and I think you know it as a Buckeye fan. I don't think it really mattered. It didn't matter to me. 2 more games, may have helped him a little bit. I think the problem with Chase Young isn't being a defensive player. I think it's Joe Burrow. He has been so dominant, almost perfect this year, that it's hard to take a vote away from him.
Right. Hey, last question for you. Any thoughts on the Ohio State-Michigan game, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah, right now, surprisingly, I'm leaning toward Michigan.
Really? Okay.
Part
do
of
you see
my
it being
rationale
close?
there is, listen, I believe Ohio State's a better team. I just wonder though about the emotional hangover from Penn State, the fact that they are going to the Big Ten championship game. I'm not saying players are sitting around going, okay, we can lose a game, let's go out there and lose. That's not the way it is. But I
Right.
don't see how I don't see how they start this game at the same emotional level that they did last week. And listen, I don't need to educate you on the other side of the ball. I mean,
Right.
Michigan. This is this. I mean, Michigan's had a decent season without winning against Ohio State. It's just another Jim Harbaugh 9-3, 9-4 record.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate your take, and we'll definitely keep tuning in to listen.
Can't wait. Thanks for the call. John is up next in Baton Rouge. Hello, John.
Hey, Paul. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Glad you're sounding better. Glad you're not sick anyway. I just wanted to mention that, I'm a big LSU fan, and everyone seems to kind of be taking it for granted that LSU is going to beat A&M. Everybody's talking about Georgia. And I wanted to point out that LSU hasn't played in the rain yet this year. Played on a wet field, but they haven't actually played in the rain, and they are predicting rain for Saturday night in Baton Rouge. So we'll have to see how that's going to affect, especially the offense for LSU. But
Well, listen, we've seen with two Georgia games this year that the rain's a big deal. I haven't seen the forecast. Is it supposed to be Saturday night?
Yeah, it's supposed to start around game time and increase as the game goes on, if these weathermen have a clue what they're talking about.
Well, listen, I'm not here to attack the credibility of weathermen, but
right.
But I would take the odds of a football pundit like me getting a prediction right better than a weatherman 48 hours out.
Right. I wanted to mention a couple of things that maybe listeners hadn't thought about. Old Coach John McKay was at Southern Cal many years ago, and I don't know if people realize it, excuse me, but he's on Coach O's staff at LSU now. He's kind of on up in age.
I vaguely remember reading about that.
Yes,
for those of you who don't know,
staff.
for those who don't know John McKay, we're talking about one of the great football coaches of his generation.
Right.
I mean, this was a contemporary.
And one of the most hilarious, in my view, he made a quote years ago. A reporter was asking him, they had lost the game.
Oh, yeah, I know where you're going here.
He said, what do you have to say about the execution of your team? He said, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think that was the winless Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback by Steve Spurrier.
Right, I believe you're right.
That is. Listen, I have a quote book at home. I considered doing a book on famous football quotes once, so I was reading a bunch of them, and that's as good a quote as I've ever heard. I mean, and I don't know Coach McKay, but I mean.
Also, I wanted to touch on also the way nowadays how things have changed so much. Somebody gets an injury now, and they got a big tent set up on the sideline where nobody can see what's going on. And I can remember when Richard Todd got injured in an Alabama game, and Coach Bryant had him stripped down to a jock strap sitting on the bench, and nobody even held a towel up behind the full moon there. And that was pretty entertaining, but it was a long time ago. But now they got the big tent that they put them in where you can't see what's happening. But also, it just kind of bothers me that the highest paid employee in the state of Louisiana, and practically every state, is a football coach.
Well, that's just the way it is, John. By the way, thanks for the call. And let me quickly jump in here. And the family of John McKay, who was a great football coach, I'm sure is probably less than amused to hear that their dad, who died in 2001, is still coaching on the LSU football staff. What John was referring to wasn't John McKay, but John Robinson, who also coached at Southern Cal. He also coached, I think, with the Rams. I believe he won a national championship at Southern Cal, and then he came back. But John McKay's been dead nearly 18 years. John Robinson, thankfully, is alive and well. John McKay is responsible for that execution quote, though, but he is not alive on the LSU staff. Let's talk to Doug, who is in South Carolina. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today?
We're doing great. Thanks a lot.
Well, let me wish you a happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I got two little questions for you. And in your opinion, don't you think they start this college football playoff ranking just a little bit too early? Because like you and I have talked on several occasions, the only one that counts is the last one.
Yeah, listen, I'm consistently troubled by it for this reason, because it is good for the sport to have conversation. The problem is a lot of people that are doing the conversation have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, that's true. That's very true. Another thing, 8 teams would be better than 4, but we know we can't go down that road because they've already signed a deal that goes so far. Now, the other thing is, I'm a Clemson Tiger fan.
Yes.
And I got a hard shell. I can take it. I understand our schedule's been weak this year, and I understand naturally there's a lot of teams in this country that think that our schedule doesn't warrant us getting into the playoffs. But I've heard several of your colleagues say that if we do run the table and we go undefeated, that we're the one team that most people don't want to meet in the playoff. My question to you is, do you think that Clemson's a good enough football team, barring just what you see, how they play and everything? Do you think they can be competitive against the other 3 teams in the college football playoff?
Doug, I most certainly do. And I was suspicious of Clemson early on, but I'm no longer. I've watched them a couple of times, and to me, their defense has impressed me more than anything else. I mean, I almost feel sorry for Trevor Lawrence that he was pressing so much early on, just trying to, I think, to keep the games interesting for himself. But now that he's settled down, he's still a great quarterback, and I think it really depends on the matchup. But yeah, I mean, Clemson. I do the same ballot every other sports talking head does, and they were number 3 in my ballot last week. So I think that speaks for itself.
And one last thing, Paul. To that caller earlier that wanted to call in and blame Coach Saban, you can't blame any football coach for playing a kid that wants to play. I'm sure that Tua came to Coach Saban and said, "Coach, I want to play as long as you'll let me play." And Coach Saban probably said, "Well, you hadn't done no 2-minute drills lately, so let's do it." What happened to Tua was a freakish accident. It could have happened to anybody. I mean, you can't blame a coach for being a coach.
I agree with you, and I think I was just like everybody else when I saw and heard about the injury. I mean, you get mad, you start blaming, and then you settle down and realize what it's all about. It's football. It's really sad, but for Tua to have gotten hurt, Doug, medical staff had to give him the go ahead. The player had to give the go ahead, and obviously the coach had to give the go ahead. It's just a freakish thing.
That's true, and I'm going to say this: Coach Saban is one of the best football coaches, just like Coach Bryant, that ever stepped on the field. I mean, even though he's our adversary and everything, you got to have respect for the man. He's a great football coach. And I'm sure that South Carolina would love to hire him if they want to run him off from Alabama.
Yeah, no, I don't have much doubt about that. Hey, Doug, thank you. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the kind words. Let's go to a break. We'll talk to Bill Hancock in the next hour. He's the head of the college football playoff.
Each other.
Good, though. Welcome back. We are continuing the phone calls here at 855-242-7285. And Larry is up next. Hey, Larry.
Oh, howdy, Paul. First-time caller.
Thank you very much.
I want to say I enjoy your show. I've been watching it for a year now, and I love college football, and your show provides a forum for people like us to argue and guess and have a fun time with it. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
I've got a question that no one agrees with me on this. They think I'm crazy. If you were the AD at Arkansas, and for the sake of this conversation, the AD at Mississippi State, and you were looking for a new head coach, would you consider former Georgia Tech coach Paul Johnson? And if not, why?
I wouldn't, no. Primarily because I felt like the end of his tenure at Georgia Tech was unimpressive, and I'm not sure his offense is easy to travel.
Easy to travel?
Well, I mean, listen. You've seen the how he runs the offense. It's complicated, and I don't. I mean, you tell me. Is a triple option going to work?
It sure worked against Alabama with tiny little Georgia Southern, didn't it?
Well, I mean, you're talking about
Georgia Southern than any other SEC team.
Larry, come on, don't be crazy, okay? I mean, that was a one-off where Alabama probably didn't spend 5 minutes preparing for the game. They were preparing for the Auburn game, and they cared about as much about that game as a scrimmage in early March. But if you're going to listen, I'm just telling you, I wouldn't hire Paul Johnson, but you're more than welcome to recommend him. What's he doing right now, by the way?
I don't know. I know he has a hard time recruiting, and it will be tough to recruit for that offense. The media hates it, players hate it, mothers hate it. Everybody doesn't like it, but it sure is an effective way to move the ball. I remember watching that Orange Bowl where they throttled a good Mississippi State team.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with his success. I mean, he won at a lot of places, from Georgia Southern to Navy, and he had a decent run at Georgia Tech. But his last couple of years were erratic, and there's no compelling reason to hire him. And besides, I don't think age should be used against someone. But I don't think he, at his age, he would be an inspiring choice. But I do appreciate your call. Thanks a lot. That was the strangest coaching suggestion I've heard in a long time. Bill is up next in Tennessee. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks a lot.
Happy Thanksgiving, you and your family. I just want to ask a question about the SEC championship game. If Georgia hangs in there with LSU through the game and comes down to a 3-point win, LSU side, how do you think the committee will look at that with Georgia?
Not very favorably, because that would be a second loss for Georgia, and they do have some impressive wins against Florida and obviously against Auburn and Notre Dame. But I think losing a conference championship game would hurt them badly, as it did last year. It's interesting. Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, said today that one reason he got off the committee was because he couldn't believe that Ohio State was ranked after a 2-loss Georgia team. That's a comment that will resonate with this committee. So I think there's virtually no chance that Georgia would be under consideration. Now, there's one possibility: Alabama losing, Oklahoma losing, Minnesota losing, Utah losing. So there's virtually no really good fourth team. I mean, it could happen, but it would take a calamity of errors for Georgia to be under consideration. Thank you for the call, though. I do appreciate it. Ryan is in Starkville. You're on the air.
Paul, can you write me a Friday morning's headline?
Well, I happen to agree with Bo Bounds. I'm slightly favoring Ole Miss in this game. What about you?
Yeah, me too, man. We're pulling for the Rebels. I think Moorhead's got to go. He's never really fit in Mississippi. You know what I mean?
I hate that, but that's a big part of college football, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this guy. My encounters with him have been many, and he's a cordial guy, but I don't think he's ever going to make it in this league. So, quite frankly, I'm not sure winning the game matters. I don't think winning that game against a team that's 4-7, I think that's what their record is, is really is enough of a factor to convince my fan base, assuming I'm running Mississippi State, that he's going to get anything, that it's going to be any better next year.
Well, I think a win gives the Cohen and the president a glimpse of hope, maybe. You know what I mean? And
I think what it really comes down to is this. If you could tell me who the next coach would be by firing him, then I could better answer the question whether he should go or not.
Right. But I go back to Sinclair Barkley makes most people look real good.
So my question to you is, if Joe left, who would you hire?
Well, I think I would have to look first to Memphis, I think it's Norvell at Memphis, just simply because he knows the region. And then after that, I'm not real sure where I would go.
Yeah, listen, I think Norvell would be a coach that would fit in. I don't have any doubt about that. Hey, thanks for the call, Ryan. Appreciate it. Mike is up next in South Carolina. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing well. Thank you, Mike.
Well, what my question is how much you think we're going to beat Clemson Saturday?
I don't give you any chance to beat Clemson.
Why? We beat Georgia.
I don't care what you did. I mean, you give me a compelling reason why outside of that one game, what has South Carolina done this year to beat an elite team? I mean, I realize that happened, but Georgia had a lot to do with that.
You think they did, eh? Well,
listen. I'm not going to argue with you about a team that's 4-7. I mean, if you think South Carolina's going to win the game, why don't you tell me why?
Well, on a given day, anybody can lose.
Try to give me a reason, Mike, other than one of the tiredest cliches in history.
Well, I think it's about time for the tables to be turned.
No, I asked you to give me something other than a cliche. Happen. Okay, you're 0 for 2 on my question. You want to try one more time?
Well, whatever. I can ask my buddy Mickey.
Oh, well, you need to do that then. You call Mickey up right now. Man, it sounds like me trying to answer a football question. Mary is up next. Hey, Mary.
Hey, Paul. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Mary.
I know this is a short week for you. Well, not really, but, I really do want to say I'm disappointed in some of the Alabama fans that just think we're going to go into Auburn and get beat. As an Alabama fan, you're not supposed to feel that way about your team. You're supposed to believe in them, right? I mean,
but the question though is I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of friends who don't think they're going to win down there, and they're great fans. I think you have to be realistic as a fan. You either think your team is good or not. I'm not a big believer in blind ambition.
Well, I think we're good. I think that our offense is good, and I think Mac is doing a good job. No,
here's the real question, Mary. What is the difference between Mac Jones and Bo Nix?
Well, I think he has more experience in that he has been in the system for several years. I mean, he came in when Tua came in, so he has been learning the system, whereas Bo is a freshman, and he hasn't. Yes, he's seen a lot of.
I mean, Bo has tremendous upside, but he's been erratic.
He has. I think that anything can happen in any football game. I mean, you look at what happened in 2013. I mean, 2013, and yeah, that was a crazy, run back 100 yards from Davis on Auburn's team. But I'm just saying, yes, Auburn has a great defense. I don't think that they can beat us. I think it's going to be close. and I'll be the first to call on Monday, no matter whether we win or lose. But I just think they need to have some more faith in their team and in Saban. And in, again, this is an odd year, and I have to look at this as 2019. So that in itself, to me, gives me a little hope. You know, it's not an
Mary,
even
thank
year.
you. Have a great holiday tomorrow, and we'll take a break. More to come. Bill Hancock is around the corner in about 30 minutes.
We've had some incredible games, as you well know, over the years. You know, the '89 game, Auburn fans still, there's so much kind of attachment to that. And it's crazy that for a lot of those people that it's already been 30 years. But you go down the line, you know, you've had the kick six and the comeback, and even that game 2 years ago in which Auburn won and then Alabama went on to win a national championship. There just seems to be a lot more kind of hype around it. I think in part because of the Tua injury and the hangover that's kind of lingered over the Alabama fan base. There's just a general lack of, I don't want to say interest, but just lack of, again, excitement about what's going to happen in this game. I think there's almost a resigned acceptance from Alabama fans that even if they win, they're probably not getting into the playoff. You know, we saw it 2 years ago again after they lost and didn't make the SEC championship. You know, Nick Saban was very active in trying to build a case, you know, whether it was on ESPN airwaves or in other areas, try to get his team into it. And so, you know, I think that it's possible to flip it something that, you know, really meant the defensive line and not purely just the team. But, you know, it wouldn't surprise me certainly to try to build up this game because, you know, if Alabama wins, it's clearly going to be the best win that they have all season. And so he needs that win to feel important, to feel like it's a big deal, and to remind people that Auburn is a really good team, even if they already have 3 losses. So, you know, it's just kind of what he has to do. And so I think we're kind of starting to see that process already. And I think that we'll see if Alabama wins that game, you're going to see Saban kind of point to how good that Auburn team is to try to kind of build the case to get into the playoff. You know, I think that Auburn's always going to be compared to Alabama. And, you know, given the amount of success that Nick Saban has had, you know, that's always going to be what Auburn fans want. And so when they're not able to consistently win at the level that Alabama has, and when they've, especially this year, you know, really blown good opportunities to get these kind of marquee wins that you need to compete for a national championship, you know, that's going to lead to fan, you know, resentment, growing frustrations. And I think what's particularly, you know, I guess different about this year, again, is that, and I've mentioned this on your program before, that, you know, Gus taking the play calling and taking, you know, really making the offense his thing. Well, when the offense is the biggest problem with your team, that's going to lead to some serious fan frustration.
Welcome back. Let's go to Steve in Knoxville. Hey, Steve, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? First-time caller.
Well, great to have you.
My question is about the bowl situation and the seeding. When players declare they're not going to play because they're going to the NFL, I would like to see a deadline that they can announce that. So maybe the bowls would be somehow switched if enough players from one team decided to sit out. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the deal. Most of the players don't really know. I mean, they have until January to declare. So it's more of a personal preference. So I don't think that would work. And by the way, the bowls are not going to be dictated by the players. The bowl tie-ups are done at the end of the championship weekend, and you really wouldn't know which way the players are going anyway. Hey, thank you for the call. Tim is in Omaha. Hello, Tim. Go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. Long-time listener, second-time caller.
Thank you.
Hey, wanted to talk about maybe Arkansas. I don't think they have any business being in the SEC anymore. They can't compete, let alone in their own division. They need to move to the Big 12, be more competitive. I mean, they have 2 games in Little Rock. They can't host recruits. So that's the downfall number 1. And it's hard to get to Fayetteville anytime to get to a game. I think that's why they have 2 game sites. I didn't know if you thought maybe they should move to the Big 12 to even compete because they'll never win a conference or a division title ever again in the SEC.
Well, first of all, there's a financial aspect of this, which I don't think Arkansas would ever consider leaving the SEC. There's too much money. Remember, the SEC network pays tens of millions of dollars a year to supplement sports other than football and basketball, and the Big 12 does not have that. The Big 12 has a good contract, but they don't have their own network. It's not happening. It's not even on the table. But thank you for the call. Jeff calls us next from Columbus. Hello, Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Unusual of Jeff not to answer the bell, but maybe he's eating his turkey and dressing. Ed is up next in South Carolina. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Paul, I just want to tell you, you have got the best show on TV, and I want you to have a great Thanksgiving, okay?
Thank you very much.
And I live for your show every day, okay?
That means a lot. Thank you.
I've got a thing. Considering everything that's happened at Kentucky, I think this may be Mark Stoops' best coaching job, even better than last year even.
Really?
I mean, he lost his quarterbacks. He lost everything, you know, and even a couple offensive linemen. They're back now, you know. But don't you think he's done a great job this year, really?
I do. I think Mark is a phenomenal coach.
And he took his name out of Florida State, so he's not going down there. So he's going to be back next year probably, you know. So. But
well, listen, I don't mean to disbelieve anything a coach says, but I do disbelieve everything coaches say. And until that job is filled, I will withhold judgment.
Well, I understand that. I really do. But I think he's done a hell of a job this year. I really, really do. Yeah.
Well, we agree. Thank you very much. Cameron is up next. Hello, Cameron.
Hey, Paul. Hey, I just want to ask you, how do you think Mac Jones is going to fare against Auburn's defense, knowing he has 3, possibly 4 first-round draft picks going to the NFL?
Well, listen, I'm sure Steve Sarkisian probably knows that too, and he's working on it right now. I mean, listen, I think it's self-explanatory what he's going to try to do, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really think those receivers, when they're having a good game, I don't think nobody in the country can stop them. If Mac Jones, if he can just get the ball to the receivers, I don't see why they couldn't blow Auburn out. Possibly.
Well, I doubt sincerely that that's going to happen. But thanks for the call. Victor is up next in Oklahoma. Hey, Victor.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Your show is wonderful, and I always enjoy your
Thank you.
Your comments. I have just a statement. I want you to comment on it, please. Don't you wish Nick Saban had an Aflac insurance policy named Jalen Hurst?
I'm sure he would like that, but listen, I mean, he got a lot out of Jalen, especially last year. And no one thought Jalen was going to stick around. And quite frankly, Jalen should not have stuck around.
Mm-hmm. But still, he would have made a good insurance policy. Like he would have got some money back on his investment.
Yeah, well, listen, now with all the money Saban made off the Aflac commercials, he probably could have let Jalen a couple of mansions.
That's true. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Great to have you on. We're up against a break. Bill Hancock in 20 minutes. Your phone calls continue on Thanksgiving Eve. We're coming right back.
To run more spread plays. You know, this was a team that was max protect for most. To run more spread plays. You know, this was a team that was max protect for most of the year. You know, bring in a tight end, an extra running back to block because their pass protection was not good. So, that was the first time where they thought, okay, if we get more guys out of the backfield, produce more options to throw for Joe Burrow, we'll give up less sacks. And it worked out. Part of it, Burrow admitted, was because they'd run out of plays. So toward into the overtime, they kind of had to expand on some things. And then they went into the Central Florida game in the Fiesta Bowl and went more spread. And
Joe Burrow had a heck of a game, and I think that catapulted him into this season. And that's when they started to really realize that that's the offensive direction they wanted to go. Ohio State is now in the heart of its conference schedule. I mean, they played against Penn State pretty tightly for most of that game, and they'll have Michigan coming up, and we'll really have a full understanding of just how complete a team Ohio State is. I think you can think of former teams like USC where they were just blowing out everybody in their conference just because they were proving to everybody that they were head and shoulders above everyone else, and I think that's what Ohio State was doing for most of the part up until the Penn State game. Nobody was within 21 points of them. I think Clemson's kind of doing the same thing since their close call with North Carolina, but I think for sure seeing how Ohio State does against Michigan and in their Big Ten championship game, you can start to have more an apples to apples comparison with LSU, and I do believe it is a close call. He hasn't really mentioned the Heisman as much. I think he understands how good they are as an offense, and that's kind of the terms he puts it. If you ask him any questions about that kind of stuff on Saturday, he did mention that some of the offensive records that they had may never be broken again, and I think that's a sense of what they've been able to accomplish offensively. And there've been questions about that the past couple of weeks. Ever since they beat Alabama, he's been the clear front runner. And someone asked Ed Orgeron today about whether he thought he would win the Heisman, and he said Ed Orgeron said that in his heart he thinks that he's the best quarterback in the nation, best player in the nation. So whoever they play in that first round is going to be tough. Down the line, I think that it really doesn't matter as much as we try and make it so.
Welcome back. Let's continue more phone calls at 855-242-7285. And let's check out Ren in Alabama. Hey, Ren.
Hello, Mr. Paul.
Hey there.
How are you doing today?
We're doing great. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. So I would like to know, what's your opinion on Gus Malzahn's job status if Auburn loses the Iron Bowl?
I think it could be pretty shaky. I'm heading down there in a couple of days, and maybe we'll have a better understanding. But the question is, would he want to leave, or will they want him to leave? It's hard to answer that until after the game.
Yeah, I'll be down there too. I've heard some rumors about him maybe going to Arkansas.
Well, I don't really know anybody that knows anything about that other than the fact that they tried to hire him 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping he leaves. Praying.
Okay. Well, say a little prayer for everyone's health. Mike is up next in Macon. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. Paul, I want to tell you how much I enjoy listening to you and Stephen A. in the mornings when you're up there in New York. Y'all seem to have like a really just unique and close friendship, and I just love to hear you two go back and forth. It's really entertaining, and and it's good information. And I know Stephen A. can be polarizing, but to me, I don't agree with him a lot of the times, but he's like a national treasure. I mean, he's like Howard Cosell. I mean, he's absolutely the most compelling, voice in the room whenever he's in the room. I don't know. Like I said, he's just a national treasure. I love listening to him.
Mike, listen, I have known him a couple of years, and especially the last 2 or 3 years. I spend time with. I mean, it's not like you can spend a lot of time with Stephen A. He's got a lot going on, but we get together during his lunch break a lot of times up here and just talk. And well, let me say this quietly: we get together and I listen. Okay.
Okay.
And he's a fascinating guy, and I feel like we've really become close friends. And when we're on the air, we're just having fun. It's like two brothers at the Thanksgiving table, just going back and forth. And my goal is always just to make him laugh. And today I had him laughing a couple of times during our segment, and that's my goal, because you're never going to out argue or out debate him. He's the best I've ever seen.
Well, that's true. When you're sitting on the couch early in the morning listening to you guys, talk, it brings a lot of laughher and entertainment. So
he's a misunderstood guy, Mike. And listen, despite the fact that there were reports that he's going to make about $10 million a year, he is just he works harder than anyone I know. He prepares harder than anyone I know. He doesn't take time off. He goes from game to game to show, and I really admire that work ethic because sometimes when you make it, the hardest thing to do is to follow that up, and I think he is one of those rare. By the way, Greenberg is very similar. I mean, Greenberg is as good a host as I've ever been around. And I study
Well,
hosts,
that's nice
being
to
a
hear.
host. I mean,
Yeah.
these two guys are extremely unique.
Well, Stephen A. One thing I know for him for sure. He's a capitalist. He's definitely not a socialist, and I like that.
No,
I'm
and
not going to get.
and listen,
I'm sorry.
I study these things out of curiosity, and I had a pretty good seat to his negotiation. Being privy to his point of view, and certainly understanding everyone else's point of view. And it has not been officially announced yet that he's re-signed, although it's been reported for weeks. And it's a deal that no one in sports broadcasting has ever seen before. It's amazing.
Well, he deserves it. I'm glad for him, and hopefully everything works out great. Paul, moving on to football, just real quick. It's Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Iron Bowl week. The strongest call I've heard for Alabama today is from Mary from Birmingham, and it was a nice call. But, I listened to Legend. Legend's hot take is that the officials deserve the Heisman Trophy. I mean, come on. I mean, that's your hot take during Iron Bowl week. Larry from Shelby, he needs antidepressants to be able to make it through the week. Jerome has disappeared somewhere down there in downtown Birmingham with Bobby. So, I mean, what's going on with the Alabama fans, Paul?
Well, Alabama fans are used to being in the position of up front. And I believe, Mike, it was a shock to the system to lose to LSU and to clearly be outclassed and then to lose your leader within 7 days of that. So right now, listen, I know what's at stake Saturday, and there's a lot more at stake than just a berth in the playoffs. And I'll save my firepower because it's a holiday and I don't want to ruin anyone's day.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ask your opinion about the game. I know you'll give that, come Saturday. You never do those games before.
Well, I can tell you this, Mike. I don't have a very strong opinion on the game. I'll make it clear.
Okay. If I could ask you for an opinion, if you care to give it and you got time, it's on the Ohio State Michigan game, and I know. These things change over the whole season. You've probably heard things today that have influenced you about that game. As you sit right now, what you've heard today, what you've accumulated through the season, how are you looking at that game this weekend?
I like Michigan.
You like Michigan? Okay.
And some of it has to do with just emotion. Michigan has been pointing to this game for a year. Ohio State just got over its toughest game of the year. And you've seen it before. It's hard to pick up after winning that Penn State game and get on the train and go right back to work and go to Ann Arbor. I just think this is a game that is just more important this year to Michigan than to Ohio State.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to get too long. I will say one thing about Ohio State. This team reminds me so much of that 2006 team that went to Arizona to face the Gators, and they were so heavily favored.
Right.
They were supposed to just wreak havoc. And the Gators came out, and after that initial touchdown by Ohio State, the Gators just dismantled them.
Oh, I remember
that's what
that.
I'm feeling this year. Yeah, I may be wrong, but anyway.
Yeah,
Paul,
listen,
thanks for all the time.
I got burned last year pulling for Harbaugh, but I'm pretty solidly Big Blue this weekend. Quick break, more to come. Bill Hancock shortly.